So here's what I did to change my life. I went to a bookshop and I suddenly bought a journal and I wrote my first passage. So I'm gonna read it here. Today is 9:22 p.m. I suddenly felt motivated to change my life. I just realized that I've been wasting my years and I'm still the same person. One of my favorite quote is, doing the same thing over and over again is insanity. If I don't start planning my future now, when will I ever do it? I've always wanted to become rich. My dad believed in me. He also told me that a fortune teller once said that I would make my family wealthy. That stayed with me since I was young. I've been practicing the law of attraction, but now it's time to take the action. That day marked a turning point in my life, but it wasn't easy. I was going through a tough transitional phase into adulthood, and my emotions was all over the place. I often felt disappointed, but I hardly ever cried. And that wasn't just a burst of motivation. Even a year later, I kept consistent with the habits that I've built. So what did I do to change my life? You should start journaling. That day when I suddenly bought my first journal, I immediately went home and wrote something on it. Today's the day that I will change my life. I treated my journal as a friend. Whenever I want to say something, I just write it instead. I've noticed that whatever you write in your journal becomes true. I wrote in my journal, I wanted to go to Paris. Then suddenly, one day, I've just applied visa online. And then I got my visa. 2 weeks later, my mom and I went to Paris. So reading back on my journal has helped me to become in touch with my emotions, and it made me understand myself even more. I also started doing push-ups every day. I cannot do a single push-up back then. When I was in high school, I was late to my ROTC training. If you don't know what ROTC is, it's basically like a semi-military training in high school in year 9, year 10. So it trains you to become a disciplined person, and you will do lots of things at school. You will be like the guard of the school, you will maintain the cleanliness. So I was late to that training and they made me do 20 push-ups. I've never felt so punished in my whole life. They let me did 20 push-ups and I couldn't do a single one. I've managed to complete 20 push-ups, but my formation was so bad. And that became a learning lesson for me that I should not be late and be punctual, or better yet, be early. So when my parents and I moved here in the UK, that's when I've learned to be on time. I also started meditating. I am not the kind of person who meditates every day, but when I started doing it 10 minutes per day, that's when I've noticed some improvements. I've noticed that I became much more controlled with my emotions, and then also it calms me. And also I take the meditation time to visualize my dream life. I started reading books and watching self-improvement contents. I wasn't much of a reader back home in my country, but after moving here in the UK, I began to read books. So the first book that I ever read here was The Four Agreements. I really liked that book. It teaches you to not take things personally. And then my favorite book of all time, Atomic Habits by James Clear. It teaches you how to build habits. And thirdly, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you read those books, I guarantee you it'll really change your life. As for videos, I watch self-improvement content while I'm eating so that I'm hitting two birds in one stone. On the first page of my journal, I also wrote, "Today I am thanking myself. I cannot believe how this initiative has helped me improve myself. I am so glad I took the step to change my life. I owe it to my younger self, who always dreamt of having the life he wanted. Now I'm making that a reality." It's never too late to start. That's why there's a saying, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So those are the things that I did to change my life.